Okay, so we're going to start talking about complex numbers today. So you need to be in Google Classroom and you need to be following along on your PowerPoint as I go through this. So I'll probably have to do this in a couple of videos. I am using YouTube videos that I've uploaded here for you to watch. So let's talk about, first of all, where imaginary numbers come from. So here, the way you've always been taught is that you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So here we have the square root of -1 equals no real solution. So if you try putting the square root of -1 in your calculator, it's going to come up no real solution. And so here, if we look at the number system, and we've talked about the number system before, but we know that we have our natural numbers, our whole numbers, our integers, our rational numbers, our real numbers, and all of these fall in the real number system. But then we also have our complex numbers, and complex numbers contain real numbers and imaginary numbers in them. So like I is an imaginary number. Here, if we look at a plus bi, a and b would be like real numbers. Like, for instance, 3 plus 7i is an example of a complex number. Now, since all numbers belong to the complex number field, all numbers can be classified as complex. The real number field and then the imaginary field, which is I, is kind of blocked out here. But here we say, okay, real numbers, a plus 0i, and of course 0, anything multiplied by 0 equals 0, so therefore it would just equal a, which would be a real number. So like, for example, we could say 3 plus 0i is just equal to 3, which is a real number because anything multiplied by 0 is just 0. Then we have our pure imaginary numbers, which can be a plus bi, and so b would actually be equal to a number. So like 4 plus 3i, that's as simple as it gets, and that is what we call a complex number. And it contains the real number, and then it contains the imaginary number. Okay, so let's keep going. A little history here. Math is used to explain our universe, and when a recurring phenomenon is seen and can't be explained by our present mathematics, new systems are derived. In this case, in the real number system, we can't take the square roots of negatives, therefore the complex number system was created. Complex numbers revolutionized computer graphics. So, in the real set of numbers, negative numbers do not have square roots. Imaginary numbers were invented so that negative numbers could have square roots and certain equations would have solutions. These numbers were derived using the unit I. So now we would say the square root of -1 is equal to I. The imaginary number is consistent of all numbers bi, where b is a real solution and I is the imaginary unit, and I squared equals -1. The first 4 powers of I are established with an important pattern that we need to learn and recognize. So first of all, I to the first power equals I squared equals -1, I cubed equals -I, and I fourth equals 1. So these are your 4 powers of I, and in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use them.